Hey BookTube, here's my recap of 2013. And
I got my ticket for the long way round. 2 bottle whiskey for the way.
you know, I was watching some other booktubers and they did some stats about their reading. And you know, I find that really helpful because I read a lot of books. So I kind of broke it down. I read 221 books in 2013. 15 of those were novellas. One was a short story collection. One was a children's book. 47 were contemporary / romance books. I completed 19 series, counting duologies, so sometimes there were only 2 books. I read 1 graphic novel. I read 76 dystopian / apocalyptic-ish books, 85 fantasy or urban fantasy, 28 sci-fi / bleed-through dystopia and fantasy. I don't know. Sometimes I didn't know how to categorize them, so I just kind of threw them into that, sci-fi. I read 16 male authors and 104 female authors. 150 of the books that I read were audiobooks, and 24 were actual print books, and then 37 were ebooks. I tried so hard to narrow this down to 13 books, and you know, I just read so many fabulous books by great authors this year that I decided that I would narrow it down to 13, but it wasn't necessarily one book. Sometimes it's a series. I listened to all of these books on audio. I do have the print copies of some of them, but not all of them. So let me just tell you what they are. And starting at number 13, I have Let the Sky Fall by Shannon Messenger. I really liked this because it was a new take on a supernatural being kind of thing. It's nymphs who can control the air and the wind, and I just found that really refreshing. It's not vampires or mermaids or werewolves or, you know, any of the typical things. So I found that really refreshing, and it's a great story. I'm really looking forward to the next 2 books in that series. Coming in at number 12, I have Crewel by Gennifer Albin. This book is amazing. You talk about inventive. This book is about women who can weave matter out of time. It's so cool. The whole premise is just amazing, and so it's an amazing book, and it's the kind of book that I listened to on audio, and that I really wanted the print book because there were times that I wanted to go back and reread portions just to kind of get it. So really, really good read. Coming in at number 11 is the whole Legend series. This is the only one I own of the series. I'm hoping to at some point acquire the box set. And this is a signed copy of the last book in the series, which is Champion. This is by Marie Lu. It is Legend, Prodigy, and then Champion. One of the best dystopians I've read this year. June and Day were 2 of my absolute favorite characters. Read this. Just read this. It's so good. It's just... At number 10, I have The Fifth Wave by Rick Yancey. This was really hyped, and I think it was worth it. I really loved this. It doesn't hurt that it takes place around my hometown, but I just thought the whole premise was really cool. I loved the way that it was 5 waves of, you know, aliens coming in and taking over. If you haven't read this, I think you probably should. At number 9, I have Pivot Point by Kasie West. I tell you what, this year was the year of new and inventive things for me, because this book is about a girl who can see differing points of view depending on the choice she or someone else makes. Really, really great premise, and such an entertaining book. It would alternate between this choice and what the events would happen, and this choice, what would happen if she chose that. So it was so interesting. I absolutely adored it. I'm looking so forward to the next couple of books in this series, especially because of the way this one ended. So, coming in at number 8, I have Hopeless by Colleen Hoover. I loved this. This is a contemporary, and it deals with a couple of teenagers who are dealing with a lot of trauma that has happened in their life, and then that continues to happen as they deal with the fallout. It's a romance. It's really well done. It's a sweet story, but it's also heart-wrenching. It will make you cry. It will make you root for the characters. I really liked the characters, honestly. And Colleen Hoover, she's a wonderful writer. She always will give you a happily ever after. She says that to you about all the books she's written. And I've met her, and she is a wonderful person. And so, yeah, I would definitely recommend that if you like contemporary. Coming in at number 7, I have The Partials series by Dan Wells. Okay, I've long maintained that we need to go haunt Dan Wells to get this last book out. The last book is called Ruins. This is the first book. The second book is called Fragments. And there is also a novella called Isolation. This series is so good. You know, I actually started listening to it early on in the spring, and I just couldn't get into it. And then I picked it up again and could not put it down. It was amazing. This book is just, it's one of the best dystopians that I think I've ever read. So it's the story of a girl who is kind of a medic in a world where the human population has dwindled to almost nothing, because at one point we created the perfect soldier and called it a partial. Well, the partials are mainly human. They're like 98% human. But they then turned, and instead of fighting our wars for us, they turned on us and fought a war against us. They unleashed a virus, and it decimated the human population. So this book follows very, very rich, wonderful characters, all of whom you hate to see go when and if they do. It has an amazing kind of trek across a wasteland America that is very dangerous and very interesting at the same time. And it's just so, so good. If you haven't picked this up, do it right now and join me in annoying the crap out of Dan Wells on Twitter until he gets the third book out. Coming in at number 6, I have the Unearthly series by Cynthia Hand. This is the first book. I only have the first book. I have all 3 on audio, but only the first one in print. The second book is called Hallowed, and the third book is Boundless. And these are angel books. I love the main character. Absolutely adore the main character. She's quirky, she's confident, she's insecure at the same time. She is not really driven, but she's focused. She's just wonderful. These characters were so fun to spend time with and to watch their saga unfold. I hated leaving this world. It was wonderful. The second book in particular deals with death in such a way that I was so impressed with the way it was handled and the way that the emotion was drawn out of me as a reader by this author. She is just incredible. At number 5, I have All Our Yesterdays by Cristin Terrill. I had this as an ebook, and then I purposely went out and spent the money on the hardback copy new. So, you know, if I'm going to spend that much money on a book, it's got to be good. And this is good. It's time travel done really, really well. She handles paradoxes expertly. She handles the science well. It's a great blend of science and a little bit of fantasy. It's just a great book. And especially if you like time travel, this is done really, really well. And at number 4, I have Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. This seems to be on everybody's top 13 or top 10 or top 5 list. I loved this book. I loved Kath, the main character. I loved Levi. I loved her dad. I loved her sister, Ren. I really enjoyed all of the characters. I enjoyed the setting. I didn't give it 5 stars because I didn't like the little portions of the fan fiction that she actually wrote that we got to read. I don't know, I just didn't need that much. The thing I loved the most about this book was the way that it dealt with bipolar disorder. This is a disorder that is just complicated. It's complicated and hard to balance, and I think that Rainbow Rowell approached this in the character of Kath's dad and just handled it so, so well without making him out to be somebody that's crazy, but just someone who is dealing with this condition in his life, and it's hard to manage, and it's tricky. And I really appreciated that. I know a couple of people with this disorder, and I love them, and I totally understand them. And to see a character that is portrayed in such a realistic and fair way was just wonderful. So, coming up at number 3 is the Darkest Minds series by Alexandra Bracken. This is The Darkest Minds, Never Fade, and there is a novella called In Time. I don't know what it is, if it's the character development or if it's the way that the pacing was done, the way it's written. I don't know, but I adore this series. I'm going to be so sad to see it end, and I'm going to have to go back and reread it and revisit it because it's just so good. At number 2, I have the Daughter of Smoke and Bone series by Laini Taylor. I have the second book in this series, which is Days of Blood and Starlight. And I think the third one is called Of Gods and Monsters. It's due out this year. I love this series so much, so much. I didn't expect to. It is fantasy. It is not high fantasy. It's sort of, I don't think you could even call it urban fantasy, except that it takes a few elements of our current world and then kind of intermingles it with another world. So, I love Crewel and I love Akiva. Those are the two main characters, and the things that they go through and the way that they handle them and the people that they are just, this book just moved me. And I have to say, at the end of the first book, the prose was gorgeous. It was just gorgeous. It was such a pleasure to read. So really looking forward to the third one in this series, and it just was right at the top of my list because I can't tell you how much I loved it. And at the very top of my list, best book I've read this year, and probably may very well be the best book I've ever read, was Clockwork Princess by Cassandra Clare. This book has themes that are just out of this world amazing. And the way that it is written is equally amazing. It was narrated by Daniel Sherman on audio, and he was amazing. I need a new word. I really do, because there just are not enough adjectives that equal amazing that I can describe this book with. The relationships between the three main characters, who are Jem, Tessa, and Will, are just so well done. And I think that part of the reason is because of the time period in which this is set. It's set at the end of the 1800s, right around the turn of the 20th century. And so the values then were very different than they are now. And I think that's part of why I appreciated it so much. These people held each other in such high esteem. And the themes of self-sacrifice and altruistic love, brotherly love, seriously, it's just so good. The ending was so good. I wish I could find more words like amazing, outstanding, astounding, fantastic, spectacular. All of these words don't even do this book justice. Now, I'm not talking about the series in this case. I'm only talking about this book, which is the third book in the Infernal Devices series. I'm just undone. I've reread it once. I will reread it again and again, just to re-experience those characters and the way that they treat each other. It's wow. Just wow. So that's my top 13 of 2013. I had a lot of honorable mentions too. I just really had to put in this best of list because they're just such good books. If you haven't read these already, then you should definitely pick them up if they're in a genre that you enjoy. First one is The Sky is Everywhere by Jandy Nelson. This is a contemporary. The Duel series by Elsie Chapman, which is a dystopia. The Testing series by Joelle Charbonneau, which is another dystopia. Eleanor and Park by Rainbow Rowell. Everybody raves about this book, and they should. It's fabulous. It's a contemporary. The Penryn and the End of Days series by Susan E., which is Angel Fall and then World After. Fabulous series. It's a dystopia, mainly about angels. The Shatter Me series by Tahara Mafi. Oh my goodness. You just read it. It kind of goes like this. It goes shatter me, destroy me, unravel me, fracture me, and then the last book, Ignite Me, is due out early this year. So can't wait for that, and it's a dystopia. The Dustland series by Moira Young, which is Blood Red Road and Rebel Heart. Incredible dystopian. Wonderful, wonderful characters. Really, really good. The Wolves of Mercy Falls series by Maggie Stiefvater, which is Shiver, Linger, and Forever. Now, I listen to these on audio, which is why I think I love them so much. They're werewolves books, but it's not werewolves in the traditional sense. It's more like a disease that causes it. So, just excellent series. The Soul Screamer series by Rachel Vincent. This is like 7 or 8 books. They start out with a prequel, My Soul to Lose, and then there are My Soul to Take, My Soul to Save, My Soul to Keep. Then we get a novella called Reaper, My Soul to Steal, and then we get another novella, A Day in the Afterlife of Todd. Then If I Die, another novella, Never to Sleep, Before I Wake, and then With All My Soul. This series, I kind of went through it, blew through it all at once, and Rachel Vincent has done an amazing job of just keeping each new book fresh and exciting. And I just finished the Starcross series by Josephine Angeli. It is Starcross, Dreamless, and Goddess. A new take on Greek mythology and Helen of Troy and Paris in particular, and I loved it. I loved it. The Grisha series by Leigh Bardugo, which is Shadow and Bone and then Siege and Storm. These 2 books are not to be missed. Just don't miss them. Definitely put those on your TBR if you have not already read them. Russian fantasy. Oh, fabulous. Incredibly good characters. Amazing story. The Blood of Eden series by Julie Kagawa, which is The Immortal Rules and The Eternity Cure. This is Reluctant Vampire in Dystopian World. Kind of bloody, kind of messy, but definitely good. The Beautiful Duology, and actually there's also a novella that goes with this. Beautiful Disaster and Walking Disaster, and then the novella just was released. It's A Beautiful Wedding, all by Jamie Maguire. I met Jamie Maguire, and she is a delightful person. And these are contemporaries, and if you like contemporary, you will really like these people because they're just so much fun. And lastly, the Everneath series by Brodie Ashton, which is Everneath, Everbound, and then Evertrue is due later out this month. It's kind of a modern day telling of Persephone. So that's my top 13 of 2013, including honorable mentions and lots of stats about all the books I read. I hope that your year has begun on a very high note, and I hope that it just keeps getting better and better and better. I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.
I'm gone, you're gonna miss me when I'm gone. You're gonna miss me by my hair. You're gonna miss me everywhere. Oh, you're gonna miss me when I'm gone.